Hello, this is Color Speak. Welcome. I am J.M. Huxley, Janet Huxley, your host, and I'm excited to be here with Wendy Bird today. She is all the way over in Uganda presently. I'm here in Kansas City, and so we're going to allow for a little bit of a delay, but we're just thanking Jesus for connecting us because we had a little bit of difficulty to start. And Wendy, boy, is it just Holy Spirit that brought us together? Before we get into that, I just want to say you are the founder of Pearls with Purpose Foundation, and that is an exciting mission, which I'm going to have you talk about. And you're also the author of a book that I have in my possession, which is this one, The Purple Dress, because you
The
gave it to
purple
me when we met
dress.
up in Kansas City. So, without further
Uh-huh.
ado, welcome. Welcome to Color Speak. Tell me about you.
Oh man, thank you. Tell you about me. Oh my goodness, that could be a couple of decades. Oh, let's see. I'm mom of five kids. They are 25 to 34, and got seven grandkids. And started Pearls with Purpose back in 2001 before social entrepreneurship and being fully aware of where your products were being made was anything cool to do.
Mm.
And so we're actually currently here in Uganda to establish additional training for a group out here, um, that we're really, I'm going to be a little, Gumby because of the time and all of that. But we're super excited to be here.
That is so awesome. Well, and while we were working on connecting, you gave me a view of what it looks like there. And I told you, let's show our viewers. It's beautiful. So your time here in
Absolutely.
Kansas City,
Yeah.
it's 9:25 in Kansas City, but where you are, it's 6:25 at night.
It is. So I can show you out here. We've got a whole bunch of people. There's the corn that's growing out in the garden, and just the sun has already set. So we are kind of done with the day here. So it's not morning like it is for you.
Isn't that amazing? Wow. Yeah, the time difference just blows me
Yeah, so
away.
that
My
is the
husband is actually
community center.
Now, see,
You
I
can kind of
can't
see that.
see right now because of the delay. There's a delay for us, so I'm not seeing it yet, but I know I will. So it'll be so fun. So the magic of modern technology. Yeah. So Pearls with Purpose, just to clarify, you said, so I want to just so our viewers know, it's a way to give people, women particularly who've been trafficked, an opportunity to make products, namely pearls or jewelry, once they have been freed from their captivity. So they have a viable means of supporting themselves. Is that right? Did I say that?
That is right. So you did. So our inception began in the squatters area of the Philippines. We started there in 2001, working with women who had been either abused or abandoned. And right after that, in 2004, we opened up in Thailand for tsunami survivors. And then that's kind of where the trafficking world came about. And we went from there to India in 2010, and then Cambodia in 2011. And then
Wow.
we started working heavily with an organization that did rescuing. And we opened up co-ops in Peru, Kenya, and Dominican Republic at that point in time. And so that kind of carried us from 2017 to 2020. And then, of course, you know what happened in 2020. And so we did our own pivot and we wrote a couple books. That's where the Purple Dress book that's when
Mhm.
that was written. And then we were recently introduced to a group who has created an incredible school and orphanage here in Uganda. And in order to help the women that are the house parents to the children, we are coming out here to do the micro enterprise training for those women so that they have an income established for themselves while they're also helping to take care of currently 55 orphans. So every country has had a different
Wow.
spin or a different niche. It hasn't all been 100% rescued from sex trafficking. It's either been poverty, abuse, disadvantaged situations, survivors like of the tsunami, and then the human trafficking. And now we're into an orphanage area. So every country has had a different spin.
Wow. And it seems like those are many countries. It's blowing my mind how busy you must be and what a calling this is on your life to put this together and to be so thorough in your endeavors. What is it that sparked this idea in you? What was the catalyst for this?
The catalyst was being a mom myself. And
Mhm.
honestly, I was not looking to start a nonprofit. I had gotten married at 21, had 5 kids over the course of 10 years. And so was either pregnant, nursing, toilet training, pregnant, nursing, toilet training. And after a
I know
decade,
that
I
feeling.
was lamenting. Yeah, yeah, there's a feeling there, isn't there? Where it's
Mhm.
like, I don't
Yeah, there
know who I
really
am
is.
anymore. There's too many toddlers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, so I was lamenting, and I was a certified gemologist. I am a certified gemologist. And my husband said, well, why don't
Wow.
you just make some jewelry? That'll be a fun hobby. Go sell it at Saturday's markets. I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
And so if you are young enough to know, old enough to know AOL dial-up internet days, that was that
100%. Yep.
era to okay, 2001. And so I made up a bunch of emails, and I was just like, loose pearls, pearls for sale, pearl jewelry at Edzemail, at Hotmail, at Yahoo. And
Mhm.
then waited a couple weeks, and all of a sudden I got some responses. And one of them, well, about 8 of them were from factories, but one of them was from a woman, and she lived in the Philippines. And to this day, like, I remember opening that email and being, where's the Philippines? I have no idea where the Philippines is. Like, never had heard of it, except for geography class. And in the body of her email, she said, I received your email. And if you were to import finished pieces of jewelry rather than loose pearls, you would change women's lives in my country. And it called me, it just stopped me. I was like, no, I'm not looking to change other people's lives. I'm looking to change my life. Like, how could I help you? Like, I just didn't even have a vision, because I was a mom of
Wow.
5 kids. I wasn't looking, for a
Yeah.
job. I was looking for a hobby. I was looking for something to distract from toddlerhood. And so that in and of itself was a definite confirmation that how could there not be a God in this world if he was going to connect this woman clear across the world in the Philippines with this woman in Utah, and have her say this sentence that just pierced my soul of, if you could
Mm.
import finished pieces from me rather than loose pearls, you would change women's lives in my country. Like, I remember just tossing and turning for nights with that sentence, going, how could I do that? How
Yeah.
would that work? What could
Kind of
I
chokes
do?
me up,
How could I
honestly.
help people? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So we
Yeah.
started. She said, I'll go find the women. And she did. She found 4. And she messaged me and said, I have 4 women. Tell us what to do. So everything was just typing at a computer. Women in America like jewelry that looks like this. And I would draw a picture, and I would, scan this thing in. I mean, it was so tedious. I look at what we have today, with our awesome smartphones. And I look back to 23 years ago and just the tediousness. And then she, on the other side of the
Oh,
world,
yeah.
had to get 50 pesos so that she could go to an internet cafe. And that took 2.5 hours. And then she had to wait, download the
Wow.
information, print it out. She had to pay the centavos to get it printed. And then she had to go and train the women. Yeah, I mean, it was just such a process. And so I just
Mhm.
started telling my friends and neighbors, do you guys want some cool jewelry that's made by women on the other side of the world? And they're like, that'd be amazing. And then it was, well, what else
Yeah.
could we do? What else could we do? How else could we help you? And it's clothing, food, shoes, educational supplies, medical supplies. Okay, I'll send you a container. hey, friends, come bring your stuff, drop it at my garage. We're going to ship a container. Like it was, I tell everybody I got my MBA from the School of Hard Knocks because I really
Oh
did
yeah,
not,
I
I didn't know
attended
what I
that
was
one as
doing.
well.
Right.
Well, and I
I
want to
think the
get
world's a
to.
better place from those people that go there.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't I'm fully convinced that until you go through a certain amount of training, and I
Hmm.
loosely use the term training, I think more like honestly suffering, you're not going to be any good to anybody because we all go through it, and the only way that you're going to be able to identify is having been there yourself and been in the trenches. But I want to say, just before we go any further, because we're going to get into this it's incredibly cool story, which is nothing short of God. And I want to encourage the people who are listening in to really understand who our God is through what you're about to tell us, Wendy, because he just works in crazy ways, and it's gotten to a point where, people say things like, "Well, the world's such a small place, and can you believe this connection?" And wow, I live to experience that every single day. So it doesn't surprise me that you've had the connections you do and that we connected the way we did in Kansas City and all of that. But before we get to that point, I just want to drop down with what you're doing and just really affirm you, because I think, for years we have all of us been hearing about these sorts of endeavors that people have done. And I remember years ago at church, there was a woman who came in and was selling jewelry that trafficked women were providing, and naturally the heart signs on to that so quickly. We want to say, yeah, sign me up. I love jewelry. And if I can buy jewelry that's made to help other people, then I'm all in. And so what you're doing is part of what people are doing now, but I think that you have a unique spin on it, and and then just seeing what the Holy Spirit is doing, I'm so encouraged. I'm so encouraged by you, and let me just say now, um, how I just want to tell everyone how we met. So in Kansas City a few weeks ago, we had a holiday mart in Overland Park, and it
Uh-huh.
was
Hmm.
huge. And so a friend of mine said, "We need to go to this holiday park." And we both had some time. And so we went down, and as we're nearing the Sheraton and Convention Center, the main street outside of the parking structure is lined with vehicles. And we're thinking, oh my word, this is huge. And there's so many people, thousands upon thousands of people there. And we walked in, and I had no idea. So I always say I live by the philosophy, expect a miracle every day. And what are you going to show me today, Lord? And this was no exception, because I met so many people at this convention, including yourself, that I walked away from there just again mind blown. I love being mind blown by God all of the time. But you and I walked up and I was drawn to what you had there, pearls with purpose, because of, I mean, I immediately understood it for what it was. And then to come to
Hmm.
find out that you have this book, yeah, I wanted to hold off on that, but maybe we just go ahead and tell everyone. This is wild. Wait till you hear this story. So this is the kind of stuff that I experience. This is undoubtedly the kind of stuff that many of you have experienced when it comes to God. Is the connections are unreal. So why don't I
Hmm.
just let you tell the story of the purple dress, which by the way, I said, "Oh my gosh, I love that story." And you gave me this book. And I said, "I am
I did. That's right.
so excited to have you come on my podcast." I said, "Please come on my podcast." And that's how this started. It was God hooked us up at a holiday mart. Wild.
At a holiday mart. Yep, that's so true. He does work in mysterious ways. So you want me to share the story of the purple dress?
Yeah. Yeah, well, condense it. I
Okay.
I think it would be better coming
Oh,
from
yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, it actually has been a part of my keynotes for the last 20 years. And every single time I shared the story, women would just come up. Is that a book? Have you written a book? My daughter needs to do that. I want to give that to my nieces. I want to give that to my grandchildren. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to write it as a book one day. And of course, in 2020, that one day came. And the story is awesome because it shows the full circle that is available to each of us as human beings to
Hmm.
really be
Yeah.
God's hands out in the world today. And so my youngest daughter, her name is Jerica. She's currently 25. But when she was 8 years old, she was a flower girl in her cousin's wedding. So she got what all little girls love, which is a beautiful purple dress. And she wore the dress all the time. And then she did what all little girls do. She grew up, she outgrew the dress. And buttons were missing, the sash was ripped. And as we were cleaning her room one day, I said, Jerica, let's make a pile, let's donate some things. Because at this point in time, we had shipped around 180,000 tons of clothing, food, educational supplies, medical supplies to 40 different provinces, trying to help the less fortunate. And so at this stage, I had no idea where items were going and who was, well, I knew directors were receiving them and distributing them, but I did not know personal recipients. And so she reluctantly
Hmm.
agreed. We sewed the missing buttons on, fixed the sash, and off it went, on a container. And then 2 years passed, and a film crew was filming a documentary on Pearls with Purpose and two other nonprofits in the Philippines. And so we were in the Philippines in our area, but then we had to go to these other two areas that we'd never been before. And I was with my oldest daughter under the pretense that she was my photographer. And because that's a good way to get a child to go on a trip with you, to give them a title.
Yeah.
And as we got off this overnight bus in Legazpi City, there was a girl running down this dirt road. And my older daughter was just like, Mom. And she grabs my arm. That's Jerica's dress. And I was just like, no, no, no. It's 6 in the morning. We've been on the bus
Yeah.
overnight. I said, Kenzie, that dress shipped 2 years ago. There's no way that's her dress. Mom, that is her dress. And so she pulls my arm. She's like, we have to go talk to that girl. So we go running down the street. We chase this girl down and we stop her. Hey, what's your name? Grace Cavero. Where do you live? Out in the jungle over there. Where did you get such a beautiful dress? And smiling, she says, Oh, 2 years ago, an angel from America shipped boxes to my village. My family was chosen to get items. I'd always wanted a dress to wear to church. And she spins around and she says, Isn't it beautiful? And Kenzie and I are just taking these pictures because Kenzie's like, Look, those are the buttons you and Jerica sewed on. And so we knew like that was the dress. And then we go out to her village. We get to meet her family. She's the oldest of 9 kids. And she runs into this little hut, and this hut is pictured in the book because we tell the true story at the back of the book. And as she goes in, she changes.
Hmm.
She like really carefully is hanging this dress up on this straw wall. And she comes out in tank top and shorts. She's got a machete and she climbs up the shimmies up this coconut tree, machetes down this coconut. And she comes over, Are you thirsty? And my brain is just like exploding with the surreality of what is going
Yeah.
on here? Like she's wearing my daughter's dress. I'm out here in the middle of the jungle. And I said, Well, where's your purple dress? And she goes, Oh, I have to take very good care because when I am too big for it, my little sister will have her first dress. So she was immediate. She wasn't going when it's old and used and I don't like it anymore. She was like, This is a prized possession. And my little sister is going to have her first dress and experience what I just experienced. Then, to make it even more incredible, we hit 2020 and I had been struggling to get this book illustrated. I had hired 3 different illustrators and they had all fallen through. And I go on a hike with my women's group and we're hiking up in the mountains and a girl was attending for the first time. Her name was Tiffany. And I didn't know her that well. She didn't know me that well. And we're pacing together. And I just said, What do you do? She goes, Oh, I do book promotion, book marketing, book illustration. I said, Oh, I said, I'm looking for a children's book illustrator. She goes, Well, you probably won't want to use mine. I said, Why? And she goes, Well, they're located in the Philippines. I said, No, that's perfect. Like, that's exactly what I want to do is get it illustrated in the Philippines. And it had never occurred to me that having Philippine artists was even an option. And so it was just that answer for why these other 3 individuals didn't work out. And so these 2 girls, we contacted them, and her name was Jana B. And as we contacted them, they're like, "Well, it's COVID, and we've had to pull out of school because we don't have the money." And that's where our computer is and the graphic, like everything we use is on the college campus. And I said, well, what if I prepay you for this contract? And she goes, oh, then we could re-enroll and I could get back into the campus. And so they were able to actually graduate because of this book contract. And so they did all the illustrating, and it just is so fitting. It was illustrated in the Philippines, and that full cycle of contribution, that full circle of how can I serve my fellow man? How can I, help somebody in need?
Mhm.
It's we get a lot of comments when we go to events. Oh, I could never do what you do. I could never fly internationally. I could never build a school. I could never help. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Those are the wrong words.
Mhm.
It's what can I do right here where I'm standing? Who could I lift? Because I am in this spot right
Mhm.
here today. Who could I give a smile to? Who could I give a can of food to? Like that's what I want the emphasis to be. Like Jerica, she never would have guessed, as an 8-year-old little girl who had
Precious.
outgrown a dress, that dress would have changed another girl's life and helped this other girl realize that she could then change her sister's life, would have helped me realize, that we could use illustrators 10, 15 years later to illustrate a book, and that would help them realize their college goals. Like, if we just take the time to lift from wherever we're standing and be conscious and aware of people around us, it's amazing what we can do to help others.
Yeah. I agree, and there's no more rewarding feeling than helping someone. It really takes the focus off of us. And
Yeah,
I wish I had the
yeah.
time to tell you about my illustrator that I found for the book that I did. I did a children's book too, and it was in 2020, and it was entitled Rainbow Land, and it's really just all about seeing God in the rainbow. And it's for children, and I met my illustrator online, and we had a contest, and it was so much fun. And I think 150 people voted, and I think it was 100% voted for my illustrator, who was in Ukraine at the time, Kiev. And she has subsequently, since all of
Mm.
that nonsense happened, she's now relocated in Berlin, but she was pregnant at the time. And she ended up having a rainbow baby. It's quite a story. We're still praying for Aurora, is the name of her baby, but she was delivered
Oh,
early
that's a
at
beautiful
23
name.
weeks and suffered
Oh,
blindness and some other issues.
oh,
Yes. But anyway, I just
oh.
feel so connected to her because of this. And I know we talked a little bit about this when I was with you. I need to vamp it up and make it shiny like this. I love your printing, but for me it was a labor of love for the Lord, and I didn't really market it or do a whole lot with it, other than I will say it's in the local library in Kansas City. And I was in there with my grandson one time, and he walked up to the librarian's desk, and here I am thinking, I really haven't done anything with this book. I haven't really marketed it. I just know that it was my response to you during COVID, Lord. And let me tell you, I got a lot of
Hmm.
backlash for it, from
Mm,
non-believing people, and
hmm.
that's a story for another day. But it was a little rough. But at the end of the day, I always think when you're talking about ministering to people, you just have to think you're ministering to an audience of one. And then if you go
Hmm.
beyond pleasing the Lord in pleasing His people, then that's wonderful. But anyway, so long story short,
Hmm.
I'm at the library, and my grandson walks up to the librarian. Oh my gosh, he was so precious. I think he was like 7 or 8 at the time. And he said, "I want to check out my Mimi's book." And the librarian was so
Oh.
delighted. She says, "Well, what is your Mimi's book?" And he says, "It's Rainbow Land." And she says, "Okay." And she goes,
uh,
"Well, honey, all of those books are checked out right now. All of the copies are checked out right now." And I just about cried because I thought,
uh,
oh my goodness, at least some kids are hearing the message of God in the rainbow.
right.
So anyway, I it's a near
That's
and dear. I don't know that I'll
awesome.
ever do another children's book, and but I just think for
Hmm.
the time, I really I think that's what hit me. I felt like I was kind of electrified when I saw your book, because we were talking about
Mm.
pearls, your foundation, when I stopped to talk to you at your booth, and then all of a sudden my eyes caught sight of the purple dress, and I said, "Well, tell me about the purple dress." And you said, "Yes, I want to tell you about the purple dress." And I was so excited, because this is the kind of stuff people like, I have a million examples of having those same interactions. And maybe you're thinking the same. Like for me, my parents, I was raised in San Diego, and we always took care of people south of the border in Tijuana. And one time we were down south of the border, and I saw a girl running down the street with her sister holding the dolls that my sister and I had given them. Just and I just knew that
Oh,
I knew that that
wow.
was my doll
Mhm.
because it had this certain lacy dress and everything.
Mhm.
So God is so good because sometimes he gives us
Mhm.
glimpses of the good we're doing. Sometimes we're never going to see, and that's okay. We have to just let it
Mhm.
go. But other times he's just so responsive. And I guess one of the other highlights that just hands out to me just now is my kids. I was a single mom for a while, and we didn't have a
Mhm.
lot when I was a single mom, and I was the single mom of 4 kids. And one day they had a book drive at school. Mom, we need a book. We need to be able to give a book to a child in need. So I just picked
Uh-huh.
up a book off the shelf that was the newest thing I could find, and it was called Ezra's Snowy Day. And so I gave that book away. Well, I'm telling you, like a week later, they were recipients of their own books. And one of my kids brought back a different copy, but that very same book that they received as a
Oh,
gift. So
wow.
I just think paying it
Mhm.
forward is always awesome, but it's more than that. It's seeing how God connects everything together and how he's a part of it. So the purple dress is just incredibly poignant. So the poignant purple dress. Anyway, it's terrific. I love it, love it, love
There we
it.
go.
God is so
Have to
good.
rename it.
And just the connection that meeting you. And then I can tell you, I was blown away with the other people I met. Just during the course of that whole thing, that my friend stood back and looked at me and said, "What is happening?" And I said, "It's the Holy Spirit. I came here to shop and have a good time and eat chocolate with you, and Holy Spirit's connecting us." So, oh goodness.
So
Well, what
true.
else do you want to tell me about your
Always how it
mission, and
works.
how can we support you?
I think probably one of the most important things to, I guess, share about it is going back to that ability for everybody to make a difference. I share this typically in keynote speeches, but it's something that resonates really strongly with the audience, especially nowadays. There's so much vitriol online. There's so much just disconnectedness. We've all, as an entire world, as the human species, we have all survived a global pandemic, and there's been loss,
Mhm.
there's been grief, there's been miscommunication, and there has been a lot of vitriol.
Oh yeah.
People, I feel, have chosen to use social media as their platform to viciously attack and divide rather than bring together what we are, which is
Mhm.
human beings. We're
Right.
all of the same race,
Right.
and we should be rooting for each of us. And then I know you mentioned the Ukraine war, and there's so much there. And right now we've got Hamas, and there's so much going on with Israel, and you're just like, holy cow, is this ever going to end?
Mhm.
And and so
Right.
I feel really pulled to share a story on love. It's how I learned what love really was, and I love the acronym of love openly, value everyone. LOVE for love. And it's just openly love and
Mm.
then value everybody, no matter, race, culture, ethnicity. It doesn't matter. Just love and value everyone. And I learned it from our Filipino director, and her name is Lani. And when we were called into India to open India, that was in, gosh, 14 years ago. And when we arrived, we had been told that we would have possibly, 2 to 10 women that might show up for the training, and to bring 20 training kits. And so we did that. And with 20 training kits, you could double them up, and that way you'd be able to train 40. And when we got there,
Mhm.
that morning we had 183 women show up. And we didn't have enough kits. We didn't have enough supplies. We didn't have enough of the gemstones. We didn't have enough tools. And the only thing I could think to do was call our director in Philippines and say, hey, Lani, could you come and bring like a couple suitcases of supplies? And could you actually stay and be in India for 90 days? away from, your husband. And she had a 2-year-old son at the time. And she just immediately said, yes, yes, I'll come. Let me talk to my husband. Let me talk to my mom, her mother, and see if she can help with the baby, with the toddler. And I said, really? And she goes, yes, yes, I will do anything for you. She calls me Sister Wens. And so she's like, Sister Wens, you're my sister. I will do anything for you. And and so she came. She arrived. It was 2 in the morning by the time she got through customs. We were 3 hours from the hostel. We drive out there. We have to get up at 7 in the morning to drive out to the leprosy colony to work with the women. And she just jumped in. And man, I don't know if I can screen share with this, but she just jumps in and she just starts helping all the women. She's, touching their hands. She's showing them how to use the tools. She's, we got 3 translators and we're both just hot, sweaty. So this isn't like an air conditioned, community center with tables and chairs. This is on the dirt floor. These are some mats. This is 98 degrees, 110 humidity, and no electricity. So 5 o'clock comes and we got to cut it and we got to get out of the area. And so we're doing all this training and helping these women and not, speaking English barely, not speaking Tamil, and speaking Tagalog. We navigated our way through a full day of training. We get back to the hostel, we're laying on our mats, and we're just a hot, sweaty mess. And she turned and she just looked at me and she goes, Sister Wens, when do I die from the leprosy? And I said, what? And she said, I know I have touched their hands. I just need to know, when do I die? How much longer do I have with my son? And I said, Laddie, you can't get leprosy. Like it's genetically, you're not going to get it. And she goes, oh, and she just grabs her face and clutches her throat. She goes, this whole day I thought I would be dying and would never see my son again. And she had been willing. She had been willing, like, to come across the country
Wow.
to squat on this dirt floor and work with complete strangers, side by side, holding their hands, teaching them how to use these tools, complete strangers, within her mind going, I'm going to get a disease that will kill me, but it's okay because they need my help. And that opened my eyes to what unconditional love really is. Because love is never going to be convenient. Love is never going to be easy. Love is never going to be a noun. Love is an action word. Love requires doing, not just saying or thinking. We have all these love songs and movies that deal with love as this romantic inclination to just stop your heart and make you go, oh, I want this. But the reality is love is hard. Love requires sacrifice. Love requires endurance. Love requires, giving up over and over again. Anybody that's raised a kid knows, like, you give up constantly, but you would always do it again and again because of love. And that's the same love our Savior has for us. He gave his only son, to die for us and atone for all the mistakes we're going to make while we're here on earth. And it just goes hand in hand. Like, that is unconditional love. Is Lanny willing to give her life for strangers in India?
Wow. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. It actually brought tears to my eyes. I was feeling my eyes start to fill there. If only we could all have that same sort of love in our hearts for one another. I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially now, it's so important to come together. I mean, the first thing that I think of, maybe it's a little bit off in the weeds, but is just the church. Because I think that, when you're talking about love and respect for one another, dying to self, for example, I don't even think it's as simple as cultural and racial divides. I think that it's ideologically what we feel that we're
Mm-hmm.
opposed to that prevents us from behaving as God would have us. And I think, we've heard this time
Right.
and time again, and I think there has never been a time that it's more true that we have to come together as a human
Mm-hmm.
race, as a church, to
Mm-hmm.
love one another despite our differences. And my goodness, the differences are so minuscule oftentimes, especially within the body. You're talking about social media
Mm-hmm.
earlier and how we tear one another apart instead of uplifting. I mean, doesn't that blow you away? For me, not in a good way. When I'm
Mhm.
thinking, okay, so there's this leader in this denomination, or this person on this platform that has an opportunity to bind us together, to join us in Christ. We're all part of the same team, and this person acts
Mhm.
derisively instead. And why aren't we coming together and forgetting the stupid, ridiculous, petty differences of, okay, well, we baptize then, and we take this sort of communion, or we drink wine, or we don't, or we listen to contemporary music, or we listen to traditional, whatever. We need to stop that. We need to stop those petty
Mhm.
denominational differences, and we have to come together. So when you're talking about love and concern for one another, and maybe I'm a little bit off base, but I think, just reading the room, right, in terms of looking at what we're
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
dealing with in society and what we're truly up against spiritually. We are at war. There is a
Mhm.
dark war happening, and if we could all behave like this friend of yours, especially as it relates to how we play this out together, how we fight this fight together, how we stay in the fight and finish the race in a good way. It all
Mhm.
starts with that
Mhm.
that sort of heart posture. And I guess that's what just I found so riveting about what you said. There's
Yeah,
a little bit of a
it's being
delay, so
willing
I have
to
to wait.
yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It is, it's being willing to link arms despite the differences, and to just link arms and
Yeah.
be cohesive and consistent with that human race theme, and not that, oh, you're this
Mhm.
denomination, like you were mentioning. I mean, even Christ,
Mhm.
when he was on the earth, he um, he is the one who did everything very unconventionally. The woman at the well, the
Oh,
Samaritan,
yeah.
like he wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to talk to her at all.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to talk to
Yeah.
her, and she was not supposed to give him water. And the Good Samaritan, like he was not supposed to be helped by a Pharisee. Like that was a complete breach of popularity, and a breach of
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
social constraints at that time. And so when you look at what he was trying to teach by the way he was choosing to live, you can see that we're not doing that at all. And it's for those things you alluded to. We're all just caught up with
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
little things. I remember being with somebody in a church service, and they got up and left, and I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, that boy was wearing tennis shoes." And I said, "Why would that cause you to leave a church service?" "Well, they should be wearing church shoes." And I'm like, I have been in church with people in tank tops. Like sometimes they're just doing the best they can. Church is a place for the ill. Church is a hospital. Church is a place where you go
Mhm.
for that healing. It isn't a place to go for judgment and to say, "Look what I'm wearing. Look at how nice I look." It's a place of healing. And
Mhm.
anyway, that example has just always stuck with me. Like, where was the real
Mhm.
problem? It wasn't with the person wearing tennis shoes at all. It was with the person who said, "I have to leave because I think that person should be dressed differently." And I mean, God wore sandals,
Yeah.
and there, there shouldn't be a judgment at all in any circumstance, but particularly in the house of God.
Yeah, I think so too. And one of the things that really bothers me is some who are living under the spirit of religiosity that are calling out others as false prophets. And I would say, you just better hold your tongue right now. And that's another subject. But I just think we're living in a day and an age where the Lord is bringing us together, and He is using His prophets. And yes, He
Hmm.
did say in these times we could definitely see false prophets, but I would always defer people to their Lord and their discernment, and to
Hmm.
work all of that out with Him, but to be extraordinarily careful of any sort of judgment that would cause division. And I guess that's where I'm getting with just so many people that are willing to speak out and tear one another down, tear the next person down. That just that's rough. So we need to show a
Yeah,
little of that love you were talking about in grace. And
that's
so,
right. That's
I
right.
want to circle back around. Yeah, I want to circle back around to, I how do you, Wendy, you're doing the Lord's work, and clearly he's supporting you in that. And I just feel his presence all over what you're doing. What what stands out in your mind as something that you had that pivotal aha moment? It's so helpful, I think. We Revelation says we overcome by the blood of the lamb and the word of our testimony. And I think it's so important to share
Mm,
our stories, those times when he showed up in a big way, that there was no
mm.
way that it could have been coincidence. What is it that stands out in your life as miraculous, or uh, one of those times where all of a sudden you did have that aha moment where you thought, okay, no matter if nothing else happens in the world right now, and if he doesn't ever show up to me again, I know without a doubt, unequivocally, he is real and he is who he says he is.
Okay, so that is a personal. Um, I've had so much of that, and um, so I have two. So and they merge. But the first one was so I have five kids, and they are now 25 to 34. And my middle one, when he was 12, we got the phone call that he had 90 days to live. He was very sickly. He spent most of his life in a hospital. And I remember getting that phone call from the doctor of basically like, get things in order. You're going to be lucky if he makes it 90 days. There's absolutely nothing we can do. And, your heart falls. And I wish I could say I turned to prayer and faith in that moment, but I was too devastated and angry. I thought, what right does God have to take my child from me? And so I spent probably a solid month, well, maybe not that one, probably 2 weeks in anger and prayers, angry prayers, and just trying
Right.
to wrap my head around why it was okay. And then I got the message of, well, I've given my son, like the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And so he will be fully taken care of. You need to trust that. And I just remember how comforting that was to realize, I am, of dust, right? Like we're just these minuscule people in the overall scheme of things. And the reality is, it's God's timetable. It's God's love. It's God's direction. It's it will all work out in
Yeah.
the end. And Jenner is still alive today. Modern science, the Western philosophies and the Eastern philosophies have kept him alive. And and I almost feel like that was almost like too easy of a lesson to learn, because then I got hit by a car on three separate occasions. And so I've had 55 surgeries and I'm half titanium. And that has been the bigger challenge, right? You look at losing your
Wait.
son and
Okay.
and then like go ahead.
Wait. You've had 55 surgeries.
Yeah.
So okay, and
Yeah.
so back up a minute too. What's the name of your son? And okay, you're gonna. Okay, I have so many questions. All right. Um, I'm sorry for interrupting. 55 is a lot.
No, you're
I'm sorry.
fine. It is
I'm
a
sorry
lot.
you had to go through
It is
all
a
of
lot.
that.
Well, I get to go through it one more time. I get my knee replaced next Friday. So I have 56 about to go in the books. But I joke that I'm
Wow.
half titanium. And the reality is I am half titanium. And when I look back at that, it's like when I compare, like, here's my son given 90 days to live, barely alive, spent most of his junior high and high school years in a hospital and with experimental drugs and stuff. And he's still alive today. And I look at all those little things where I was like, is he ever going to go on a date? Is he ever going to get to kiss the girl? Will he ever get a driver's license? Will he finish school? And I look at how miracle after miracle after
Mhm.
miracle, my son, he accomplished those things. And then, I get hit by this car, and then I'm in a hospital, and slowly we have to give you new hips. Oh, we have to give you a new back. Oh, we have to give you a new neck. Oh, we have to give you a new shoulder. Oh, there's all these things that just kind of continued on for me. And with any of those, there was always, but Jenner almost lost his life. Like I'm in a hospital and I'm getting a limb replacement and I'm getting this fixed and I'm getting, stuff figured out. But Jen almost lost his life. And so, you conflate those two situations. I don't know that it's mortality motivation so much as just it could have been worse, right? Like I remember, so on
Hmm.
my 55th surgery, which was just this last year, I was in a cast, and I remember thinking, okay, I'm missing another ski season. I'm missing snowshoeing. I'm missing the hiking with my friends because I'm a very external, like extracurricular person. And and I was like, I'm
Yeah, me
not going to
too.
get upset about this. And like it's just life, and it's just I'm just going to do more PT, and at least I will be able to walk. And I remember I was really upset though because it was going to be my second ski season, and so I have this cast on, and I was getting kind of grousy and irritable about it. And I went in for my checkup, and they were going to be taking the cast off. And there was a guy coming out of the room, and he's on crutches, and he's got a cast, and he makes the joke of, oh, look, we're twins. And I said, yeah. I said, how much longer do you have? And he said, 6 months. And I was like, oh, it's that perspective flip, right? Because all of a sudden I'm like, I'm getting my cast off today. I only had to have my cast on for 6 weeks. He's got 6 months. Like, who's the lucky one in that story? Yeah, did I have a cast? Did I have a
Hmm.
broken foot? Did I have a broken ankle? Did I get pins and plates and screws in my body? Yeah. But I didn't have to wear a cast for 6 months. And so that it's that perspective, right? It's
Hmm.
what how are we going to view the experiences we're going through? We're going to view them based on our own personal experiences that we've had. But I choose to view most of my experiences as other people I interact with and what they're going through. Because I've talked to thousands of women who did lose their sons. And so that makes the fact that my son is still alive that much more deeper and full of gratitude. That makes, the guy that had to wear his cast for 6 months, I only had to wear mine for 6 weeks. Super grateful, right? I'm super grateful. I got to go hiking that year. He wasn't going to get to go. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things where if we just flip the script,
Yeah.
because it isn't why is this happening? It's how can I make this better? I joke in some of my keynotes, like I've done 9 years of a full time job, 40 hours a week, 9 straight years of PT, just rehabbing the body. And then I usually say, so that I could stand in front of you today on this stage. And there's so much truth
Yeah.
there. I've had to put time and effort and energy into being able to get this to work and to stand and to walk again and to move. And I can't go do the dances and stuff that I used to love to do. There's a lot that I can't do, but that's not what I'm going to focus on ever. I'm going to focus on what can I do. And I think if people learn to flip that script and flip that verbiage, they can change their entire world.
Right, because what you focus on expands, and your worst day is always someone else's best day. And being mindful of that is so
Yeah.
helpful. So it sounds to me like you have come to terms with the trueness, the realness of Jesus through what he has done for you. Because honestly, I had no idea that you had been through so much. I was just impressed with the fact that a mom of eight, I have eight, I'm mom of five rather. I have eight. And I'm
Uh-huh.
always impressed with moms who pick up and carry their torches beyond childbearing, because I think so many times the enemy wants to convince us that, well, you've done what you need to do. So now you need to just find your rocking chair and, find some, something to amuse yourself with. But it's never going to be the same because the best years of your life are behind you. So anyone that's willing to say, you know what, no, I'm going to, until I take my last breath, if I'm 110,
Mm,
that I'm going to use every single day to the glory of God. I'm going to fulfill everything that I've been
mhm,
charged to fulfill. And then on top of it, to learn that you have had these limitations. I mean, you don't look at it like limitations, and certainly I don't want to define them as such, but that's really impressive, Wendy. No
no,
wonder
they're
you
they're
have the faith that
limiting.
you do.
No.
I I mean, I just know whenever I go through something and I'm pleading with the Lord, why won't you heal me or this situation or this, child or whatever it is, friend? Why won't you do that? Like, I believe in hands-on healing. I believe that I can go in and this is what you
Mhm.
tell me in your word. That I sign me up for that. I want to do that. I want to be the person that lays hands on someone and all of a sudden they feel that electricity course through them and the Holy Spirit has healed them. Boom, and it's good and it's done. And I believe in that. I believe that people have been restored to sight and hearing, and they've grown new
Mhm.
limbs and had metal plates in their bodies disappear and all of that. Yes, sign me up for it. But in my own reality, the Lord hasn't worked that way. But He says to me, and He's right about this, well, I always heal. I just don't do it
Mhm.
in your timing, but I always heal. And
Mhm.
He always does every time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I love
Exactly.
that you, yeah. And I'm sorry that you've had to go through those things. Those are terrible things to go through. So what was going on with your son that you
Yeah, but
just
but
lost
it's
him
my
and
normal.
yeah.
Sorry, I probably interjected you because of that time delay. I was just saying it's my
No,
normal.
it's
Like, I
okay.
remember having
So
a friend take me to the hospital, and she was just like, "What are we doing?" And this was on my, like, 36th surgery, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna go and get this, and I'm gonna have a cast, and I'll have a knee scooter, and I'll do this," and she was just like, "Wait, this is your 36th surgery?" And she was driving. Her name is Paula. And I said, yeah. And she goes, Wendy, I didn't even have my kids in a hospital. I have never set foot in a hospital. And you've gone in 36 times. And I'm looking at her like, what's wrong with you? And she's looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And we're both just like completely blown away with each of our stories, right? Because they
mhm.
weren't the same story. And that has just always, I don't know, it's just always stuck with me. Like you were just saying, we don't know what that our best day is someone else's worst day and vice versa. We don't know what people are going through. And that's why
Yeah,
grace and love are so
right.
needed today because nobody's walking around with it printed on their forehead. And so we just need to assume,
Right.
like, you know what? We're living in a world that's really hard right now. And the way we can make that world better
Yeah,
is by living in grace and offering grace and being willing to receive
right.
grace so that when it is our worst day, we can kind of be buoyed up a little bit.
Yeah, and I would say there isn't anyone that doesn't have some issue going on. I mean, so if you look at someone and think, "Oh, she has it so easy," or "I wish my life looked like hers," or whatever it is, you have no idea, sister, what's really happening because we all have to go through it. We all have to find our way out of the pit at some point. All your surgeries
Mhm.
remind me of a friend of mine that sure so long ago. I don't know if do you remember the Little Rascals? They were on. I mean, when I was a kid,
Mhm.
I'm dating myself, but I remember they would always go in rerun, and there was the little kid named, well, his name was Johnny Downs in real life, and he had the baseball cap that was turned around backwards. Well, his daughter, Molly, was my teacher in San Diego of my first two kids, their kindergarten teacher. And I volunteered in the classroom, so I spent a
Mhm.
lot of time with her. And she had been hit by a bus while she was riding her bike on the island of Coronado. And every moment that she took off, she was having another surgery. And the principal once told me, she said, Janet, you have no idea what Molly goes through. Because we were talking, I was telling her, I said, oh my gosh, I just admire this woman so much. And she said, you have no idea. She said, every single Christmas vacation, all during the summer, every chance she gets, she's in for another surgery. That's all she ever does because she
Mhm.
developed rheumatoid arthritis. And I
Mm.
so admired her like you. I just feel like sometimes, like you talked about the school of hard knocks, most of the time, those people graduate with, that graduate with PhDs tend to be the ones who make the most impact in the world. So, and
I
that you're
think
doing.
PhD is personal hell driver, right?
That's true. Oh my goodness. Yeah, those are some degrees I don't want though, the ones that I've specialized in. So what else would you have our listeners and viewers know before I let you go back to your whatever? Oh gosh, it just is amazing to me that you're in Uganda. So obviously you must be coming home if you have another surgery scheduled here shortly.
Um, yes, so my surgery is on the 22nd by so it's next Friday. So we get home on the 14th. So we are just here to
Okay.
establish the interest of the women for the training. It looks like we'll have about 16, and then we'll do. So we have 12 modules, and we can deliver those 12 modules. It's how to own a business, how to negotiate for supplies, how to do marketing, how to create the products, how to establish pricing, how to hire, how to fire. And so we cram all that over 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the country. And with this being like the home parents, of the orphans and stuff, we're trying to identify more like time management. How could they run a business from home? What will that business be? For some of them, it will be jewelry making. For some of them, it might be leather working. And we did get a sponsor for sewing machines. So we're looking at these really awesome apron patterns, and they're called. I'm looking around because I want to like hold it up and show you to you, but I don't have anything close by. But some wristlets, some little coin bag things, and different things like that with the African bright colored materials. And so that's so this is kind of like that research, the R&D trip where we identify what we can do. We'll do a couple modules of training, and then we'll be back
Mhm.
here when I'm fully rehabbed with my new knee for probably 3 weeks in June. And then in March, we're opening up Mexico with another nonprofit, with another awesome serendipitous meeting that took place in Austin, Texas, kind of similar to you, where I was speaking at an event, and then she's like, "Could you do this in Mexico?" I'm like, "Sure." She goes, "I run a nonprofit for pregnant moms, and it's more focused on the health for them to have a healthy baby. But every time they deliver the baby, my heart just balls because it's like, now what? Like, what's next for them? Like, how is that baby going to be raised?" And she says, "If you help them to have a business, then I know they'll have money, and they could, provide food for their child." And so we'll be doing that in March, and then April is Honduras, and and then May I've got some pre-contracted speaking things. So June is as soon as we can get back here. So it's going to be busy. It's always
Mhm.
busy. You tie
Yeah.
another knot and hang on, and you just keep going, and that's what we do.
Well, that's impressive, and it sounds to me like you must have a team of people that support you because my goodness, you couldn't do all of this on your own. I mean, I know that you're partnering with other groups and nonprofits in each location, but you must have a team, am I right?
I have a husband that's amazing, and I have a very small team. We're there's just like five of us, and so it's small but mighty, and we just kind of go and do what we can do. So we are definitely looking to hire, like what you saw me and my husband at. We're looking to hire for people to go and do that, to move the women's products,
Mhm.
and that's a huge need we have right now. You said you're still getting around. I am, but like with a wheelchair and a cane, like it's traveling's getting harder the older I get. Probably similar to
Oh,
Molly, where I don't know if I have rheumatoid arthritis, but I do
yeah.
have like, I mean, just the flight over here, that 18 hours, it's like, oh, I cannot sit in this position for 1 minute longer, and I'm standing up and walking, and it's hard, or maybe a sponsor for, the business class so that I could recline.
Yes, I pray that right now. I lift that up. You have not because you ask not. So I just lift that up to you right now, Wendy, that you would not just only have business class, that the Lord would provide you first class so that you can lay down. There is nothing wrong with asking for that. And I just right now just ask for your healing and I declare it in the name of the Lord that you will be a testimony to Him,
Thank
to
you.
His glory, to what He's doing, to the kingdom that is now being advanced on the earth in his precious name. We thank you, Lord, for the healing that is coming, that is now Wendy's.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate that.
Amen. Well, it's my pleasure. And I truly believe that for you. And again, I'm mindful of just because you don't see it happening right away doesn't mean that it's coming, because I think about all the ways that the Lord has healed me and my kids, my family. It's amazing to me. He never lets us down. He never lets us down. So I want to make
That's
sure
true.
that I'll have all of your information in the show notes. The show notes are particularly what I've done for the audio segments, but I'm now transitioning to video. So I'll see what I can do to get them up on Rumble and YouTube as well. And then, Wendy, do you have a site where people could go to buy merchandise from you or support you in any other way?
Yeah, pearlswithpurpose.org. We'll get to the website with the products that
Okay,
the women make. And anything on Instagram, any of those, everything is Pearls with Purpose. And so we
perfect.
welcome any of that. And then we're trying to get a show calendar up when we're at events or if I'm speaking somewhere, trying to, yeah, help people be more in the know of where we're going to be and what we're doing. So that's definitely, we need to put up there for a website person. We use Shopify, so we need the tech help.
Yeah, I mean, even I'm just one person and I have a lot of irons in the fire. I'm kind of like I always say, a jack of all trades and a master of none because I have so many things I'm
Mm-hmm,
doing.
mm-hmm.
I have a guy that does my website, so I can actually provide you his name. And it's great because he manages it and
Nice.
I don't do anything. I certainly don't have time. Um, yeah.
Right.
So, well, I'll make sure that I have that up. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. If you want, anytime you have an event or you have a need, just tag me on Instagram and I'll forward it too. Once I'm tagged, I can
Oh,
absolutely
thanks.
help promote what you're doing, which is a
Okay.
wonderful thing. So,
That is
so at
awesome.
any rate, thank
Thank
you for
you.
coming on. And I know that you had to endure flooding to get there. I mean, I'm getting these texts from Wendy just before we met here, and she's telling me they have flooding, and I'm thinking, okay, Lord, in your name I declare the angels, the hosts of heaven are out surrounding Wendy, and give her a smooth, so that she has a smooth, successful, protected journey into the co-op, I guess you're now at. So I know it wasn't, I mean,
I
you
will
had to
say
go out of your
twice
way,
the
and I
guy was going
appreciate
to
it.
turn around. Twice he was going to turn around. And I'm like, no, 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 he can do it. Come on, Heavenly Father, you can do this. You can do this. And sure enough, he's like, okay, I'll give it one try. And if the car doesn't go, then we turn around. He did it one try and he made it through. I'm like, yes,
Oh,
yes. And then there was another flat. I'm like, oh no. And he just kept driving through. I'm like, Peter, you are the best driver ever. And the executive director out here, her name is Stella, and she said, we're not even in the 4x4. We usually bring the 4x4. I'm like, oh my gosh, we did this without four-wheel drive. So yeah, that was a
are you
miracle right
okay to
there.
get home, or are you now stuck?
I
Are
think
you
I think
stuck
we'll
at
be
the
here a few
co-op
days.
right now?
Yeah, we'll be here for a few days.
Okay.
That's okay.
And you had been
I'm used
coming
to that.
to
That's
where you had been coming from? Okay. Where
we
had you
were
been coming
in
from?
Kampala. We were in the main city where you fly into. You fly into Entebbe, and then
Okay.
we had spent the night in Kampala, and then we came out here to Bukamer, and then we were gonna go home tonight. But I think we're here for tonight and tomorrow night, and then we'll try on Sunday. Sunday's a good day to try.
Okay. Wow. You're not wrong when you talk about your life being an adventure. So we will definitely be praying for you and your safe travels and successful surgery and complete healing. Thank you, Wendy. Thanks so much for coming on
Awesome.
and talking to me today. It was such a pleasure.
It was an honor for me too. Thanks so much, Janet.
I hope we can stay in touch. And thank you, the rest of you, for listening or watching us today on Color Speak. I hope that God richly blesses your day, and I hope that you were blessed by what you heard today. And absolutely have a Merry Christmas. Bye, everyone.